can you imagine this? This is the guy, Marcus, who doesn't look like a superstar. He doesn't look like the best players in the world because the best players in the world are elegant. They care about everything. They have a way of playing. They have a way of their schwung. And then you have Thomas Müller, who is one of the best players of his generation, who has won most trophies of his generation, and is the best communicator in the world. And how has he been in football the best communicator in the world? Using dad jokes about a funeral, about a man dying. He's asking one of his sons. But I have to say, he says with a microphone in the stadium, "I was thinking of a joke to tell you." How get the idea that the right place to do a joke is when you do your farewell in Allianz Arena. The whole world is looking. Okay, I'll do a joke.
Hi and welcome to the Fussball channel. I'm your host Marcus Fjörtoft, and as always joined by co-host Jan Fjörtoft. And it was a special Bundesliga weekend full of farewells, celebrations, tears, joy, what have you. Here to break it all down. That immediate reflections, I was struggling going through how we're going to get through all of this, honestly, but a great Bundesliga across the board.
Yeah, but depressing as well, because our Eintracht Frankfurt had 3 match balls. Why did they have 3 match balls? Yes, Freiburg and Dortmund had to win away from home. And I was following that. I was watching quite literally the second half live. I can't remember where I did it, but I was just on my phone nervous. Holstein Kiel 1, Freiburg 2. Well, all respect to them. They managed to get it over the line. A draw there would have got Eintracht Frankfurt into the Champions League. So next match ball is Leverkusen. Last home game with Xabi Alonso. Playing Dortmund. On form, yes. But at least Leverkusen will get a draw. Which have meant that Eintracht Frankfurt will be in the Champions League. And I saw the first half. While I was waiting, I was at Anfield doing Viaplay Premier Sunday. And I was watching the whole first half live. Leverkusen were hammering them. They were creating chances after chances. Then Dortmund, and all respect to them, had one shot at goal, and it was 1-1. And then I needed to work, and I tried to update myself, and then I realized they were winning 4-2. And again, my friend Niko Kovac, yes, I do want him to get into the Champions League, but I thought that they could sort out Eintracht Frankfurt first. But listen, there's still that match ball, and after 1 minute, Rasmus Christensen makes that 1-0 for Eintracht Frankfurt against St. Pauli. Remember, if they win that game, they're through anyway. But it wasn't to be. And at the end, I was watching part of that game. I saw the highlights. You must say that I won't say they didn't deserve more. Just at the end, they had a goal, but it was rightly VAR interfered, saying that was a handball. So 2-2 means the following thing, Marcus. Last round of the season is Holstein Kiel visiting Dortmund. So Dortmund, if they win, they are more or less through. Well, maybe a goal difference could kind of do them, because they are plus 17. Eintracht Frankfurt goes plus 20. So Eintracht with a draw, then there is 2 or 3-0. But there's so many if and without. But the Champions League final is Freiburg against Eintracht Frankfurt in Freiburg. Meaning that Eintracht Frankfurt can't lose, and Freiburg are through with a win. What a sensation that would be with a new manager and all that kind of thing. So it's going to be very, very exciting. This is on Saturday. I'm at the FA Cup final out in Norwegian National Day, but I'm still going to follow this very closely. So it was very dramatic in terms of Eintracht Frankfurt. That's my main topic for the Bundesliga round.
Yeah, and they looked all but secure. That's what's so frustrating, I think, for us, because for the longest time, it looked like they were Champions League bound, and here we are, and it didn't have to be that way. We also have to give credit to the fact that even Dortmund have got themselves into contention. Niko Kovac has done a fantastic job at that. Also, bear in mind, it was, yes, Leverkusen gone out to the Cup, Champions League to Bayern, not in the league, running for the Bundesliga title, but it's only their 3rd defeat of the season. And that's encapsulate Dortmund so perfectly, that they go there, need to win, and win 4-2 away against Bayer Leverkusen. And Niko Kovac now having that effect on the team that I think they hoped for. I don't know if they were expecting, but they hoped that with his discipline, with his authority, and Adeyemi said it as well, he's running us to the ground. He's setting a different set of demands. Credit where credit is due in terms of the work they're doing, and of course with Freiburg as well. Also worth noting that in the Champions League running, RB Leipzig are out of it, which is
Yeah,
pretty
they're out of
dramatic
it.
for a club like that. In terms of the financial implications for these clubs, because that affects the sporting recruitment, it affects the players you can attract, etc., etc. So it'll be interesting. Big summer for them as well in terms of the managers they're trying to bring in. But
Yeah.
we also have to, before we go on, anything?
No, yeah, I'm just saying that if you told Eintracht Frankfurt before the season that with a draw at
Yeah,
Freiburg you will get into Champions League, you would have taken it. And yes, that was a feeling this weekend that a lot of results had to go Eintracht's way, but we have to be honest that in the last 2, 3 rounds, a lot of results have gone Eintracht's way
yeah.
anyway. So that has been good. Eintracht has shown away from home they can win. They have a team that I think it's well fitted to do well away from home. Remember when Freiburg need to win, so Freiburg need to attack. Eintracht Frankfurt got a lot of quality going forward, so I'm optimistic. Just as I wanted is well, sofa meister, like they're sitting in the sofa and you get qualified. Eintracht could have done that yesterday. We saw the result did go against them, but I agree with you. I'm a sportsman. If Freiburg got to win in Kiel, they do it. That means his Kiel is down. Dortmund kind of ruined the party of Xabi Alonso, which was a party anyway. He had to go into the stand and get a celebration for the fans. Done a fantastic job. They're now going to Real Madrid, and there's all kind of things that we have to discuss later. Will that mean that Florian Wirtz is going there? Maybe we'll talk about more of that. He is bound to sorry, I love to go bound to Eintracht Frankfurt, but he's bound to Bayern Munich. That's what the reports are saying. There was also a report this morning. We are doing this Monday afternoon. There was also a report this morning that Leverkusen and Manchester City have verbally agreed a fee. So there's a lot of speculations now. And remember, there are three parties in a deal. Is first of all the players. They decide where they want to go and when, because of course they have a contract. Of course, Leverkusen as a selling club would love to see him not going to Bayern because they got the ambitions of their own to win the league as they did last season. And then of course Bayern, Manchester City, Real Madrid would love to have these players, but it's going to be an enormous amount of money. And I think that we later in an episode have to discuss Bayern's need. Bayern is struggling back at the back and the defense. They are good going forward. You take on a player, Florian Wirtz, who's not in, doesn't fit to the system the company is playing at the moment. So you need to adjust your system. I saw Didi Hamann, our Sky colleague today, said in the weekend on Sky 90, a football magazine, said that the big loser in that will be Musiala, because Musiala got to adjust
Yeah.
his game, and so there is a lot of speculations in and around that. But I think that with Alonso now, that will have a lot of we has a dynamic, as a domino,
Yeah.
domino effect, because now decisions need to be made. Leverkusen need a coach, Leipzig need a coach, Hoffenheim need a coach, and so on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of moving pieces, and during this weekend, people are reading into it, and what is Abel saying, and what's the look he's saying when he's talking about it, and then you see City verbally agreeing something, and then you see Wirtz walking past Alonso, and that looked like a bit of a cold affront as such. That's what I probably think is most interesting in this. It is level one, level two, level three, level four to these
Yeah.
things as to where things will go. Just quickly, how do you read the situations from a PR comms perspective in terms of how what Abel is saying, Wirtz body language, Alonso now going to Real Madrid, verbal agreement on this side, Wirtz family camp wants to go to Bayern. There's a lot. How substantial are these rumors, so to speak, or should we just ignore them and just wait for
No,
the
well, interesting because in the parties, we've been told for months that the father of Florian Wirtz have had a close relationship to Uli Hoeneß, which is strong, which is a big sign of the battles that are going. Internal in Bayern is also when is there was some reports say no Eberl is into this deal as well. So Eberl would need to do the details. But you also get a feeling. Remember that Florian Wirtz got a contract at Leverkusen, so you could end up that he's playing another year at Leverkusen if he's going to Bayern. But because Leverkusen can, from their point of view, why should they strengthen Bayern?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand that Leverkusen will have that point, but I also understand the stand of Bayern, because Bayern, in a time where it's so hard, who are the players they're going to attract? So first of all, there is a limited amount or number of players that can make them better. That is just a standard of a great team. But they will also always compete with the big money spenders in England, who have backing from the from states, from oil and gas production. Then you will also you have to compete with the mythos of Real Madrid, or the mythos of Barcelona. Yes, they have some difficulties to register player, but with a Hansi Flick there, a lot of the players that you can say that Bayern had the advantage of taking those players. I mean, for example, Jonathan Tah, he will move on. Yes, there were 5 million euro that they missed out on last time, but now he's free. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you save you that money and you win the Bundesliga, and then you may say that in the international level, Tah could make you better. But Tah then will have Flick in Barcelona. He will have the mythos I think of Real Madrid. So that's why Bayern got to go all in for Florian Wirtz, because he is a superstar. He's a superstar in making. We all love him. If you follow football and don't love Florian Wirtz, you don't love football. So he's a fantastic player. But I think that is a lot of, when we've seen the reports, and there are people that we think are very reliable in Germany, but we read that Sané was just ready to sign. Okay, he swapped his agent, so apparently he's not 100% safe. Eric Dyer was ready to sign for Bayern. That was a 1-year deal, and then he got offered a 2-year deal at Monaco. We were told that was 100%. So we'll see this, and we will also see them. When the movers, the big movers, we're talking about Manchester City, we are talking about Real Madrid, we are talking about Bayern. These are big players, and there is big money involved. So I think that the last word has not been said about him going there and where not.
Mm-hmm. I think just lastly on that, I've been giving a bit of thought, because we've discussed, how do you allocate 150 million euros? In the sense that, okay, if you're not spending it on Florian Wirtz, you can spend it elsewhere. But you make a point there in terms of the other giants that you're up against, state-backed clubs, City, Real Madrid. For Bayern, who usually were able to attract such big-profile players in a changing football landscape, which is becoming increasingly harder to recruit the very, very best, don't underestimate the fact that the signaling effect, and yes, it's a costly signaling effect, but of attracting one of the best players in the world, and what that means for the Bayern brand, what the implications are for sponsors, what the implications are for further players that you can attract. For the Bundesliga, you could say, okay, Florian Wirtz going to a rival, but he's staying in Germany. Having those type of profiles as well, there are those considerations in a sense. So yeah, I'm very curious as to how this situation evolves.
Yeah, you're right, Marcus, but Leverkusen won't see it that way.
No, of course not. I'm not. No. And I'm taking the more devil's advocate, because we have to admit that if Bayern Munich buy or get Tah, they get Wirtz, let's say two key players, let's say for argument's sake, two best players from Leverkusen who won the title last year, undefeated as such. Of course, the optics around that for the Bundesliga, it isn't favorable as such.
Not at all. Not at all. It's and everybody will say that is the German Bundesliga. Here we go. Yeah. Same in Werder Bremen. Same what happened to Dortmund. They kind of took the blood out. But having said that, on one side, just be 100% clear, but it's not Bayern's fault that they're not that they are doing good business. I mean that they have
No.
to do that. And that's why we always discuss it. The standard of Bayern is to win the Champions League, to be a contender, to win the Champions League, to be the best club in the world. That is the ambition of that club. They've been the best club in the world. They want to be that again. That is point one. Point two is, of course, what you were saying about how it's seen from outside, that these kind of things happening, but fair enough, that is not Bayern's fault. Bayern going to do
No.
whatever they're going to do. But having said that, the third but in this is that if you see the need of Bayern, so if you see the need of Bayern, they have a need of a central defender. They are in need of a number six, because one of the biggest flop this season is Paulinho, who they took from Fulham, is not playing at all. And this is the club that has extended contracts, big money. So whatever you say, how much better will you be to get Florian Wirtz? And that is a silly question, but it's a sensible question, because how many Ferraris can you have in your garage? You can just drive one at a time. That is point one. And point two, it costs a lot of money. I'm not saying they shouldn't get Wirtz. Don't misunderstand me. I think that is a good idea, because they have to attract these kind of players. And I remember a quote from Ancelotti, who said, I didn't take Roberto Baggio back in the days because I couldn't find a place for him, and he went somewhere else. Now I've changed. I know I'm a manager. I said, just get me the best players, and I find a place for them. And I do think that Bayern will manage to do that. But if you see the needs of the club, then you can understand that people are doing the analysis. They're thinking, but how is this sustainable in the terms of finances? And that's why Uli Hoeneß apparently now is looking for the money through his big partners. Although you have a 50+1 rule in Germany, doesn't mean that Bayern is just owned by the owners. But one of the big ones is Adidas. And apparently there is negotiations with Adidas to get him to an Adidas club and so on. So Marcus, this is going to be more to discuss. This is not the last time we're discussing Florian Wirtz, and we do promise that if something happens, we'll do an emergency podcast on that, because Florian Wirtz is one of our favorite players and one of the best things coming out of Germany right now.
Indeed. Just to conclude the Leverkusen one, I looked at the farewells. I looked at Xabi Alonso in terms of his interaction with the fans, a fantastic reception. Xhaka's emotional, very well written farewell on his social media. Tah leaving. It was a very beautiful moment, but it was a sad one in the sense that under Xabi Alonso, this club went on an adventure. And you just get this sense that journey, that adventure they had, which was, incredible last season in terms of one of the most historic seasons by any club, period, is coming to an end. And we've been highly complimentary of Caro CEO, as Rolfis in terms of head of sport. And I've no doubt that if they get the money for Wirtz, they will able to allocate that appropriately. But it will be a new era for them. And perhaps winning the league has lifted them from what they were, as third, fourth, fifth best, to now being the perennial challenger. But it will come with a different challenge in terms of, okay, we have more money available, but how do we allocate it? How do we get the right manager involved? They were extremely good on their recruitment last year, and everyone, every signing almost delivered almost beyond their potential in a sense. So there was a day there where it was filled with a bit of, not ambivalence, I say, but it was a bit of the good and the bad in terms of that coming to an end. But of course, as opposed to a certain other player in the Premier League who's going to Real Madrid, the reception was a bit more favorable for Xabi Alonso going to Real Madrid, as there was this understanding and a celebration of what was.
Yeah, we're talking about the booing of Trent Alexander-Arnold that I find very bad, and I've said that. And it's not like I'm going to say that Liverpool fans they got to feel whatever they want, but I got a feeling as well. So that's my feeling. I think, and I see that unison of all pundits, all football players. And I will comment another thing. I don't think there is any player in that Liverpool dressing room who didn't want to go to Real Madrid, if I'll be a bit tabloid. But yes, Marcus, it's an end of an era. But although the end is there, it's filled with so many great memories that they won the league. I think that's worth it. And they have to start again. They started again this season. This was not a great season for Leverkusen. They should have been in the Pokal finale. They should be in the cup final. So they haven't had a good season this season, although they have been the main challenger. But the other challenges like Leipzig, we talked about it, gone. Dortmund, well, they kind of recover now, but haven't been there, and so on. So I think that because of just what you said, I think that is an indication who the next manager will be. I think that they will look for the same kind of guy. Remember when Xabi Alonso took the Leverkusen job, his experience was quite short. He didn't have a lot of experience. When he now take the Real Madrid job, he doesn't have a lot of experience either. But Real Madrid knew the fresh start after Ancelotti. Fair enough. They need a kind of new start like they had with Zinedine Zidane, and they've done that before. So that's fair. That's why I think that, Marcus, if you look at the candidates right now, yes, at Como, Fabregas have had a lot of money. If you balance that or the other teams that he competed with, but Fabregas, so to say, that's the profile. There is a great footballer, a great thinker of the game. He has had more success as a coach than Alonso had when he came, and he will be loved. Marcus, you met him. You made an exclusive interview with him. You know how he's like. Was one of your favorites when you were a kid. He was a brilliant footballer. So they wouldn't do a lot of mistakes, Leverkusen, if they took Fabregas now. I think that will kind of, they won't forget Alonso, but they will kind of get as close as Alonso you get. So I think that that's what's make him the favorite to take him. But I can also understand that if Leipzig see that as a possibility, but when you're Fabregas, you will have a look at the chances and what's going on in Leverkusen. Leverkusen is a grateful club. It's easy to do well, and I see that easy compared with how hard it is in international top football. But it's still a very good organized club. Leverkusen is not a place with 100 media outlets like Köln, like Hamburg, like also Frankfurt and Munich. So it's easier to improve as a coach. So I think that the Fabregas is the favorite to get that job.
I'd be curious in terms of what he does, because he is early on in his managerial career, has a lot of, I think, freedom at Como, is taking them to mid-table. Can you break in? Can you go into Europe, top 7? I'm not saying there isn't a difference between Bayer Leverkusen and Como.
There is.
But I'm just saying in terms of what it comes down ultimately what he thinks he can do with the club. And and it's funny because as a player, you always want to take the new steps, and he will want to rightfully do so in a managerial career as well. But he'll have to consider, okay, what is best for my development, my working conditions, etc. Either way, whoever club keeps him or gets him, they would get an excellent coach. I think one of the best coaches in the next decades to come. And I don't exaggerate, because yes, I was fortunate enough to interview him, but I also know how hard he works, how dedicated he is. On top of that, having one of the best midfield careers, won everything there is to be as well. So similar profile as such. And then RB Leipzig might have a say, or a word or two in terms of that competition.
And I throw something into the discussion. So now we're in the 24-25 season. So Fabregas goes to Leverkusen and makes 2 seasons there, with probably a clause saying that when Arsenal call, he will get there. And so it's all about, it's the same Alonso story. This is Alonso coming to Leverkusen, making a name of himself, also as a coach, having already had the great name of Alonso. And now Fabregas can go the same route and take over Arsenal, and maybe that could be the same timing, because Arteta has been there for 5-6 years. need to deliver next season, have done a good job in getting them back as a title contender, missing that last thing that will take them to win trophies. Only one FA Cup, that is only for a club like Arsenal. So Fabregas, I can't see him going straight from coma now to take Arsenal, but a couple of years, Arteta got a couple of more years as Arsenal, and here we go, 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27, then your Fabregas is your new Arsenal manager, Marcus. And I see around here in your room, there's a lot of old Fabregas shirts from his Arsenal time, so everything will be perfect for you then.
Yeah, and hopefully we can retract one of these clips, a 3-year prediction. That we have to, I think, could we say we saved the best for last in the sense that Thomas Müller, goodbye. You know, I want your take on Thomas Müller, but I do wonder if we will ever see someone like Thomas Müller with his stature, with what he has achieved, and then staying so authentically himself. And I think it was nothing encapsulated that better than him, you know, having his goodbye speech, seeing him in the celebrations, and just being unapologetically himself. And he's been that from the get-go. Him doing a stand-up routine with a funeral joke. Go and find that clip.
But it's unbelievable. I would just say that because I will tell people that joke, because can you imagine this? This is the guy, Marcus, who doesn't look like a superstar. He doesn't look like the best players in the world, because the best players in the world are elegant. They care about everything. They have a way of playing. They have a way of their schwung. And then you have Thomas Müller, who is one of the best players of his generation, who has won most trophies of his generation, and is the best communicator in the world. And how has he been in football the best communicator in the world? Using dad jokes. About a funeral, about a man dying, he's asking one of his sons. But I have to say, he says with a microphone in the stadium, "I was thinking of a joke to tell you." How get the idea that the right place to do a joke is when you do your farewell in Allianz Arena? The whole world is looking. Okay, I'll do a joke. That is just a guy that loves dad jokes, because he's only got dad jokes and people love them. You remember when we had that with Lewandowski? It was Lewandowski, and he was like, Golski. Did you get it? Did you get it? And it's like, so his jokes. There is a man dying. Ask his sons. I do the short words, and ask his sons. Ask your mother if I can get something to eat from her wonderful torte, the cakes. Yeah. I want a cake, and he comes back, and I don't know if he gets something, but he didn't get the one he wanted, and the son saying, "Mom says we're gonna have that for the funeral." And so this is a joke that one of the best players in his generation tells, and that's what makes him fantastic. That's what's making him authentic. That's what makes him different. Can you imagine Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi doing a joke in front of the whole world? So Thomas Müller, I hope he will be in football. I hope he'll play on for a couple of more years. Maybe he gets to America. I don't know, but we will miss him. He's one of the best one around. I have enjoyed interviewing him. There's always something. Sometimes he can speak English. Sometimes he can't speak English. So now you have to love Thomas Müller. So a fantastic career.
I was looking at the stats of what he has achieved, and it's hard to go through it all. We could have done an entire episode just listing his achievements. I mean, record of Bayern appearance holder. I mean, the amount of assists, the number of goals he has. He's only behind Gerd Müller and Lewandowski. I say Lewandowski now. Yeah. I meant for Bayern Munich. The number of assists he had. I mean, he is at the top of every ranking. He's won every trophy. It's his incredible career, but he has stayed he's so authentically Bavarian, I guess, as well. He came to Bayern at 10. He encapsulates the very spirit, I guess, of Bayern Munich as well. And that's what I wonder if we will ever have someone like that at that level as well. You tend to, that guy's the one you associate with the the legend in the fifth division who's just been around and just having a great time and played the whole time. But here you have a guy at Bayern Munich who's been one of the best players in the world. He's had one of the best careers in the world. Yeah, we will miss him. I get the feeling that we will see a lot more of him. Yes, he extends his career, but even if it's on television, it's a role at Bayern Munich, what have you.
Yeah, I think that the only one you can compare him with that I get it just off my head, there are probably more, but it's Sepp Maier, the goalkeeper, the legendary goalkeeper, had a good joke, was always around, was Bayern Munich in his DNA. So I think that is the one I can compare with. And Thomas Müller, being a superstar, doesn't look like a superstar, doesn't move like a superstar, no tattoos, no sport cars. He's just Thomas Müller. Loves talking to his horse and doing jokes on internet, the internet with his horse and all those kind of things. No, we'll miss him. Football get a bit less colorful after Thomas Müller is leaving football, and that's why we hope he will stay. But he will never. And I guess that is the big challenge for every superstar that retires, because you can never mirror that anyway. Look at Oliver Kahn, CEO. Look at the other players who go into management. Look at in England now how few of the golden generation who are in coaching. So that is hard. So well, let's see. At least we have to thank him for the services, not only to Bayern, not only to Germany, but in football in general, because it's been an enjoyment to follow his career.
And yeah, I'm sure it won't be the last tribute we will have. But with us coming towards the end here, we have to mention a couple of other things. You mentioned it briefly. That is the fact that Holstein Kiel got relegated. So did Bochum. I think it's fair that they went down. Bear in mind, Bochum had 1 point from the team's opening 8 games. Holstein Kiel failed to win until match day 9. They had, to be fair to Holstein Kiel, they had two wins, 2 draws in their last 6 games as well. So they were getting there, but it was just, they fell a bit too short. I think it's fair that they did, even though we thought that Bochum would be able to come back under Hecking, having won against Bayern, having won against Dortmund, drawn against Leverkusen, but it was not to be. But in terms of the team that will be replacing them, we have one confirmed, and that is Hamburger Sportverein. And that we have... as long as we've ran this podcast, we've always looked at them, and it's the one that has always fallen short of the line. This historic 6-time German champion, European Cup winner. And the day has come in which they return after a 7-year hiatus from the Bundesliga. They are back.
And a quick explainer why this has been special here, because it's been unbelievable the last, I can't remember now, is it 6 years, 7 years since they've been down? So I'm born in 1967. So when I remember 74, 75, 76, but when you start in the end of the 70s, you kind of understand football more. You see there are other leagues in England, and I was always a fan of German football. I think that started with the 3 wins of Bayern Munich in the Champions League in the 70s. But then there were Borussia Mönchengladbach, Die Fohlen, who had a fantastic team, a coach called Weisweiler, I think, with a Jupp Heynckes as a striker. That was like a fantastic team. But Hamburger Sportverein, it's a mirror of the Stadt, the town. Hamburg is a harbor. It's on the north coast of Germany, close. I always say when I see people from Hamburg, it's the south of Norway. It's a cool city, and they always had cool players there. They had Felix Magath, that later become my manager, and he scored a winner when they won the European Cup. They had Ernst Happel as coach, the Austrian coach who used to play for Rapid Vienna, had success for Feyenoord, Brugge. Took over Tirol Innsbruck when I played there, but he won the European Cup with Hamburg. They had Horst Rubic, the Kopfballungeheuer, so that means the heading monster. They had Manny Karls, who was also my assistant coach at Eintracht Frankfurt, who did the banana flanken. So he kind of invented the banana flanken that got on Rubic's head. They had Kevin Keegan leaving Liverpool and joined Hamburger Sportverein, and then. And of course, I played them all the years that I stayed in Germany. This is a fantastic city, a fantastic stadium, and a fantastic football club. But after they went down together with Schalke, Hertha, Köln, and all of them, I said Hertha Berlin, didn't I? And down there, but always at the end of the season, they had different coaches, great managers, head of sports, and they haven't managed. So it's funny, Marcus, that through our kind of segment in our podcast, I follow them more closely now. So I found myself looking at that game, of course. So they 1-0 up, and now they were 1-0
I think they were
down.
1-0 down, yeah.
They were 1-0 down, of course. And then because that is a drama, how much? And it was 1-1, and then penalty. Not for them, for their opposition. And the keeper saves it. They go up 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1, and they're up. So they're back. And I would like to say back where they belong, because Hamburger Sportsland, if you get Köln up now as well, I think the guys, no disrespect to Holstein Kiel, no disrespect to Bochum, but I think that the guys who are selling the rights, the guys who are head of the Bundesliga would like to have these two teams back. It's going to be a battle for the qualification. St. Pauli, unfortunately, managed to get a point in Frankfurt. Kind of, you feel that have saved them somehow. But I'm glad, and all the best to HSV, Hamburger Sportsverein, being back in the Bundesliga, and we are losing out on a segment in our podcast, in our YouTube channel, Marcus.
We are, but they will be back. Also, a quick shout out to a guest of the Fussball channel, Adrian Beck, scored 2 goals for Heidenheim, which secured their, at the very least, their relegation playoff spot. Yes, they could technically make it out, but they'd have to score a lot of goals last game. But that concludes our very plentiful episode. Lots of things happening, and we will be back after the season as well with a recap and what have you. But for now, Dad, thanks a lot, and auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen, but just want to say that Bayern, who didn't want to go to Ibiza because Erbel said they shouldn't go to Ibiza, but this weekend they went anyway. So we are going to be a lot of talking about FC Hollywood, who is now Ibiza United. Auf Wiedersehen.